So this is the continuation of our lesson on elasticities. So previously we talked about the price elasticity of demand and the income elasticity of demand. So now let's proceed to the cross price elasticity of demand. Now let's talk about the cross price elasticity of demand. So it is a measure of the responsiveness of the demand for one product to changes in the price of another product. So we have here therefore two products. So one product and another product. If you can recall in our lesson in the price elasticity of demand, wherein we are measuring how the quantity demanded of a product responds to a change in its own price. So there's only one product there. But here, we are computing the elasticity if we try to evaluate the effect to the demand of a certain good when another good will change its price. So to illustrate that more clearly, we will be using a formula. So the formula for the cross price elasticity of demand is percentage change in quantity demanded of good X. So this is our first product over the percentage change in the price of Y. So Y is our second product. So again, in the cross price elasticity of demand, it involves two products. So atong tan-awon kung unsa man ang mahimong epekto sa quantity demanded sa usa ka product kung ang lain na pod nga product ang naay mga movement or changes sa iyahang price. So, the cross-price elasticity of demand will be represented by the acronym XED. So, in the cross-price elasticity of demand, we will still use the same information as what we have learned in the price elasticity of demand, wherein the coefficients have a meaning or naa siya'y pasabot. So, for example, 0 ang ato ang coefficient. So, it means it is perfectly inelastic. So, same lang gihapon siya. And then, if less than 1, so it's inelastic. Kung exactly 1, that's unitary elastic. If it's more than 1, it's elastic. And if it's infinity, then it's perfectly elastic. So, magamit gihapon ni siya nga mga coefficient. However, mao niyang ato ang mahimong ultimate gyud nga interpretation of the elasticity if we're talking about cross-price elasticity of demand. So here in the cross-price elasticity of demand, the sign is as important as the numerical value. So if you can recall before in our lesson in the price elasticity of demand, we have learned that the coefficients would have a negative sign. Since if the price increases, the demand will decrease. So there's an opposite reaction. So naturally, the price elasticity of demand will have a negative sign. But here in the cross price elasticity of demand, the coefficient can either be positive or negative. So if the sign is positive, it means that the price of good X increases, the demand for the other good increases. So what happens here is when the price of good X increases, the demand of good X will decrease. As an effect, the customers will prefer to buy another good, which is good Y. That's why the demand for good Y will increase. So if this is the scenario, therefore, good X and good Y are substitutes. Because once the price of good X will increase, people will now tend to look for another good and they found good Y, and hence they will buy more of good Y, so the demand for good Y will increase. On the other hand, if the sign is negative, it is where when the price of good X increases, the demand for good Y decreases. What happens here? The price of good X increases, the demand also of good X decreases. And good Y now, as a result, will decrease, or the demand for good Y will also decrease. So therefore, they are related to each other. The decrease in the demand of good X because of the price increase also pulled down the demand of good Y. So therefore, what are the two goods? What is the relationship of the two goods? So the two goods are complements, because once the demand for good X decreases because of the increase in the price, the demand also of good Y decreases. How about if the coefficient is 0? So it means that as the price increases with good X, the demand for good Y is not affected. Or if the price of good X decreases, demand for good Y is still not affected. So therefore, the two goods are unrelated goods. So products that are bought together are called as complementary goods. So pares sila. Examples, we have strawberries and cream, fish and chips, cars and petrol, televisions and TV licenses. So complementary goods have negative cross-price elasticities. Perfect complements will have a cross-price elasticity of negative infinity. Okay, so why is it that they have a negative cross-price elasticities? Because the difference or the movements in the price of good X will cause movement also in the demand for the complementary good. So for example, if the price of the gasoline soars high, so what will happen to the demand for gasoline? So the demand for gasoline will decrease because people will not uh, be willing to buy more of gasoline if the price of the gasoline increases. So since gasoline or petrol um, is used to uh, fuel the cars, so there could be an effect on the demand for cars. So for example, if the gasoline becomes very, very expensive, so that will make the customers less interested also to buy more cars or to increase the demand for the cars. So therefore, gasoline and cars are complements. So gasoline in terms of petrol. Okay, so this means that they go together. So if the demand for good X goes down, demand also for the complementary good Y also goes down. The relationship between the price of good X, wherein if it increases, so the demand of good Y will decrease. That's why they have a negative coefficient. Meanwhile, products which are in competition with each other are called as substitute goods. Examples, we have beef and lamb, firewood and LPG, petrol and diesel fuel, rice and corn. So substitute goods have positive price elasticities. So for example, we have the firewood and LPG. So if the price of the LPG soars high, the demand for the LPG goes down. So as the law of demand states that if the price goes up, the demand will go down. Since the price will go up for LPG, people will now hesitate to buy LPG because, of course, that will take much of their expenses. So they will look for alternatives. So one alternative would be to buy firewood, or some may also use charcoal. So what happens now to the demand of the firewood? So we're looking at the demand. So the demand for the firewood will now increase because people will switch from LPG to firewood. And since they both have the same direction, so both will go up. So, diba, the price of good X, for instance, this is our good X and this is our good Y. So, since they both have the increase, increase in the price, increase in the demand in the other good, so that's why it will result to a positive coefficient. And hence, if the goods have positive, two goods when computed with the cross price elasticity have positive coefficients, so these are considered as substitute goods. So let us compute the cross price elasticity. So given here is a problem. A butcher sells beef and lamb only. It is observed that when the price of beef rises by 15%, the demand for lamb increases by 10%. So what is the cross price elasticity for lamb against the price of beef? Now let us compute the cross price elasticity of demand. Suppose a butcher sells beef and lamb only. It is observed that when the price of the beef rises by 15%, the demand for lamb increases by 10%. So what is the price elasticity for lamb against the price of beef? So let us substitute the given information to get the cross price elasticity for lamb against the price of beef. So we have our numerator, the percentage change in the quantity demanded of the lamb over the percentage change in the price of beef. Since the percentage change are already given in the problem, so we will just substitute these in our formula. So for the rise in the demand for lamb, we have the 10%. And then we also substitute the increase in the price of beef, that is our denominator. So divide increase by 10% or positive 10% over increase by 15% or positive 15%, we will get 0.67 positive. So since the answer is positive, the coefficient is positive, so we can say that beef and lamb are substitutes. Again, why are they substitutes? Because of their positive coefficients. And to determine the elasticity of this cross price elasticity of demand for lamb against the price of beef, we will look at the number for the coefficient. So since it is less than 1, so therefore it is inelastic. So up next, we will talk about the price elasticity of supply. So see you in our next video. If you like this video, please don't forget to click subscribe and hit the notification bell to be updated with the latest video lessons. Thank you for watching.